Hey everybody, it's Jackie with Jackie's Recent Things again, and we're going to make a terry bow for this project. This board that I have here is the Ultimate. This is the one that I'm going to use for this particular project so I can fluff the bow. I've put an eye hook on my board for this, on my Ultimate. Now, if you have a board that has row F on it, you're going to use row D. If your board has row E on it, you'll use row C. Let's get started. So for this project, I'm using a combination of tinsel wire and 26 gauge wire. The tinsel wire is going to be my finishing wire. The 26 gauge is going to be my helper wire. For my ribbons, these are the ribbons that we're going to use. I'm going to alternate my ribbons between a 1.5 and a 2.5. 1.5, 2.5, 1.5, 2.5. Pull your ribbon off. And I'm going to cut my dovetail first. And I'm going to take my tinsel wire, and my tinsel wire, I cut this about 32 inches long. I wanted it pretty long for this project, which you'll see why here in a minute when I go to attach the bow. I'm going to twist that around. One of the advantages to tinsel wire is if you have a problem with your ribbon sliding around on your pegs, this kind of stops it. It doesn't move as much. Going to take your wire, you'll spin it around over on your peg. Go to the left with the top one, and with the bottom one, you're going to go to the right. That puts a little leverage to keep it from spinning. What's left, tuck it under your board, get it out of the way. If you'll notice, see, it doesn't move like it does with the regular wire. It doesn't shift and move like it does, so it makes it easier to start your loops. Do your pinch and twist. Like I've said before, one of the best ways to make sure that you've got a good twist is how good your ribbon is standing out. And now this is where your helper wire comes in. If you can't get a very good view of this bow tutorial that I'm doing right now, I do have a very good one that is available on YouTube. Under the terry bow, you'll find it. Just search there. And it's an angle shooting over my shoulder. I'm going to cut this tail again. I like my tails to be about as long as my loops. You can cut your tails to taste, whatever you like your bow to look like. Like always, I can do things faster if I didn't clean up as I go, but that's me. I clean up as I go. Pinch and twist. Don't over tie your guide wire, because if you do, you'll end up getting a very bunchy looking bow and your ribbon will not lay right. I only twist mine one time. All that this wire is doing is holding your ribbon to the peg and keeping it from moving. So you don't have to tie it more than once. Now this ribbon is brown with a little bronze in it. All these ribbons that I'm using have a little bit of shine to it. I always like to take my thumb and push it against my ribbon, and that keeps it tight and flat. So when I go to tie it later on, it won't be all bunchy. Got that tail a little bit long, so I'm going to go ahead and trim it. The colors that I'm using are browns and tans and coppers and golds. Some of the prettier colors of fall. I love all the fall colors. But I've also incorporated a little bit of black into this. I think black with the golds and the coppers, it's just going to give it just a little bit of pop. This ribbon that I'm using right now, the one with the dots, it was a Raz ribbon that I got a couple years ago. So I don't know if it's ever going to be available again, but I love it, so I'm kind of like hanging on to it. It's the last of it that I've got. This ribbon was Craft Outlet. Black and gold is a ribbon that if you find it, you probably should get it. It's not that available. There's actually several things that you can use black and gold for, but you won't find it that often. And the black against the gold gives the gold just an awesome shine. This ribbon I got from Lynn Keys this year. This is the last ribbon. So I'm going to pull my wire out and twist it. Pull it off the peg. I always double check, make sure I got it all off the peg. I have tied my bow to my pegs before because I didn't double check. And the one thing about this tinsel wire, it's easier to get a hold of also to tighten your bow down because you can wrap it around your hand. So if you have a hard time getting a good grip on your wires, you can do this with this tinsel wire, and it makes it just super easy to cinch your bow up and get it tight as possible. My guide wire, we don't need it anymore, so I'm just going to cut it off. So to recap real quick, because a lot of people ask me, where'd you get your ribbon? I get my ribbon several different places. So this one came from Lynn Keys. This one came from Craft Outlet. This one is Raz. I got it a couple years ago, so I don't think you can find it again. This one was Sam's Club last year. I think I've seen it again this year. It's a brown with some copper in it. This one you can pick up at Craft Outlet. And then this one is also a Craft Outlet. This is copper. If you pull the center peg out, it makes it easier to just lift your bow right off. Now, even for the eye hook that I have on here is the same size as the one that's on your standard fluff box. You'll only be able to put one tinsel wire in at a time and pull it through, because the tinsel wire is thicker. And then when you pull it through, come to this side of your nail with your wires and then wrap. That's going to put the tension on your bow to keep it from moving around while you're fluffing it. I start on the bottom to fluff your bow, and I'm going to pull and alternate. One of the things that's very important while you're fluffing is that you're rounding up your loops. That's what makes a bow look so fluffy, is that you're rounding up your loops. So I'm going to pull and alternate on my tails. And I'm even rounding my tails up. And that's what's going to give your bow life. I'm going to alternate my loops and tails. This time I'm pulling a loop to the left. I'm going to pull a tail to the right. And I'm going to put them sitting in between my first ribbon to fill the space. So I'm going to take a tail to the left this time and a loop to the right. Rounding my tails, fluffing as I go. See how I'm pulling on the ribbon? Don't be afraid to pull on your ribbon. Get it to where you want it to go. You can't help it as you fluff to flatten stuff up, so you're just going to have to fluff it back up. Not a big deal. Notice how I'm rounding my tails up? I'm making them kind of curl like a loop to make the bow fluffier. Once we get it all fluffed out, undo your wires, take it off. And there you have your terry bow. So we're going to go ahead and attach it to our frame. Now it's a little bit more difficult to get this tinsel wire down through the mesh, but you're still going to have to put this down through the mesh. And what I'm going to do, and I'll show you before I do this, I'm going to come down to this rail is where I want to attach my bow, and I'm coming up to this rail, and I want my bow to sit in the middle of these two. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to do that. So one of my wires, like I said, it's just a little bit difficult to go down through the mesh. So it's just going to take a little bit of doing. And I caught that bottom one, and now the other wire I'm going to take over the top. And then I'm going to pull them. And while I'm pulling them, I'm going to make sure that my bow is sitting up and toward the middle. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, now that I've got that on there, I'm going to take my wires and I'm going to twist them together. Flip this over in a second and show you. I don't want to flatten my bow. Give me just a second. Flip this over. So now that I've twisted those, see how much I have left over? I did that on purpose. That's why I cut it so long. I don't want my bow to slide on these two rails. So now I'm going to take my wire, go under that side, and go under this side. And then I'm going to come back to the center and twist it again. And then whatever's left, I'm just going to tuck away. Like so. And there you have it. There's our terry bow. Come on back here in just a little bit, and I'm going to show you how to add more ribbon to this.